Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om
Om
Namo
Namo
Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Om Namo
Om
Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo
Namo
Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo
Om
Bhagavate
Bhagavate
Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Narayanam Namaskritya
Narayanam
Narayanam
Namaskritya
Namaskritya.
Naram Chaiva Narottamam
Naram
Naram
Chaiva
Chaiva
Narottamam
Narottamam.
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam
Devim
Divim
Saraswatim
Saraswatim
Vyasam
Vyasam.
Tato Jayam Udirayet
Tato Jayam
Tato Jayam
Udirayet.
Udirayet.
Shrinvatam Swakatah Krishna
Shanvatam
Shanvatam
Swakatha
Swakatha
Krishna
Krishna.
Punyashravana Kirtana
Punya
Punya
Shravana
Shravana
Kirtana
Kirtana.
Yantasto hi abhadrani
Hridayantastho
Hridyantasto
he
hi
abhadrani
abhadrani.
vidhunote sahutsatam
Vidhunoti
Vidhunoti
suhursatam
suhritsatam.
nashtaprayeshva bhadreshu
Nishtaprayeshu
Nishtaprayeshva
abhadreshu
bhadreshu.
yam bhagavata sevaya
Nityam
Yam
Bhagavato
Bhagavata
Sevaya
Sevaya.
bhagavati uttama shloke
Bhagavate
Bhagavati
Uttama
Uttama
Shloke
Shloke.
bhaktir bhavati nayistiki
Bhaktir
Bhaktir
Bhavati
Bhavati
Naishtaki
Naishtaki.
krishnaya vasudevaya
Krishnaya
Krishnaya
Vasudevaya
Vasudevaya.
devaki nandanaya cha
Devaki
Devaki
Nandayanaya
Nandanaya
cha
cha.
nanda gopakumaraya
Nanda
Nanda
Gopakumaraya
Gopakumaraya.
govindaya namo namaha.
Govindaya
Govindaya
Namo
Namo
Namaha.
Namaha.
So we'll continue reading the 10th chapter, which is primarily Krishna leaving Hastinapur and visiting Dvārakā. As we have been discussing in the last couple of classes, the theme was primarily focused on the sadness or the love in separation that the devotees of Hastinapur are experiencing. So in this current section, starting with verses in around 20 to 30, or I think 18 to 25, the focus is on the discussions between the queens of Dvārakā. So the queens of Dvārakā, the queens of Hastinapur, they were all giving their send-off to the Lord, and they were discussing between themselves about the glories of the Supreme Lord, Lord Krishna, as he was about to depart. So last week we covered the 3 verses by Brajakishore Prabhu. So let's read through those 3 translations. The personality of Godhead, again desiring to give names and forms to his parts and parcels, the living entities. So these are all prayers by the queens of Hastinapur. Placed them under the guidance of material nature. By his own potency, material nature is empowered to recreate. So they are actually talking about the creation pastime of the Lord. So this is the creation pastime of the Lord. Next verse. Here is the same supreme personality of Godhead, whose transcendental form is experienced by the great devotees who are completely cleansed of material consciousness by dint of rigid devotional service and full control of life and the senses. And that is the only way to purify existence. Further describing the glories of devotion service here. Next verse. This also we covered last week. Oh dear friends, here is the very personality whose attractive and confidential pastimes are described in the confidential parts of Vedic literature by his great devotees. It is he only who creates, maintains, and annihilates the material world, and yet remains unaffected. So they're all saying, hey, this is the personality, who is the soul, who is the person who is behind the pastimes of creation, maintenance, and annihilation. Right? So Lord creates, maintains, and annihilates in his expansion as what? In what expansion? What do we call those incarnations of Lord? Which is an expansion of Lord Kṛṣṇa only, which perform the pastime of creation, maintenance, and destruction. Anybody? Any guess? Those are called Purusha Avataras. Right? Purusha Avataras are the avatars that are responsible for the pastime of creation, maintenance, and annihilation of the universes. Purusha Avatar specifically, Karanodakṣai Vishnu is the source of all the universes, and Garbhodakṣai, who enters each universe, is the soul of the universe. He maintains the universe. And then Kshirodakṣai Vishnu enters the entire, every living entity, and is the witness and the Paramatma within the heart. So they were actually talking about the creation Leela here. Let's read this also. Yeah, I think from here we can start. Yada hi adharmena tamodiyo nripa
यदा हि
हि
अधर्मेण तमोधियो नृपा
जीवन्ति तत्रैष हि सत्त्वता किल
ते तत्रैषि हि सत्त्वता किल
दत्ते भगां सत्यमृतं दयां यशो
धत्ते भगां सत्यं कृतां दयां यशो
भवाय रूपाणि दधात्युगे युगे
भवाय रूपाणि ददात् युगे युगे.
Please read anyone.
Whenever there are kings and administrators living like animals in the lowest modes of existence, the Lord in his transcendental form manifests his supreme power. The truth positive shows special mercy to the faithful, performs wonderful activities, manifests various transcendental forms as is necessary in different periods and ages.
So Lord, as a father of all the living entities, he always cares for the well-being of the jivas. And so he time and again comes to the material world to provide the pathway back to Godhead. Right? So he sometimes directly comes as Krishna. Sometimes he sends his incarnations like Rama, Narsingha, Vamana, Madhusudana. So, and then sometimes he sends his devotees, pure devotees like Srila Prabhupada or Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Ramanujacharya. So in this way, Lord always takes care of the living entities, right? And when he comes in either his incarnation or directly himself, he establishes dharma, right? And then annihilates the miscreants, right? Dharma samsthapanardhaya sambhavami yuge yuge, right? So he comes again and again. Paritranaya sadhunam, to protect the innocent and the pious, and then to annihilate the miscreants, right? So these are the leelas of Lord, and so these queens in Hastinapur are describing the incarnation leela of the Lord. The truth positive shows special mercy to the faithful, performs wonderful activities, and manifests various transcendental forms as is necessary in different periods and ages. Why he does that? Because he loves his children. Yeah, please read here.
But at times, due to the influence of the ignorance mode of material nature, the lowest of the material modes, kings and administrators come into power without knowledge and responsibility. And such foolish administrators live like animals for the sake of their own personal interest. The result is that the whole atmosphere becomes surcharged with the anarchy and vicious elements. Nepo- Nepotism and bribery, cheating, aggression, and therefore famine, epidemic, war, and similar other disturbing features become prominent in human society. And the devotees of the Lord are faithful or persecuted by all means.
Yeah, so we see that in today's world. So we can see that very clearly influence of lower modes, like in this case, ignorance, mode of ignorance of material nature is prominent. That's why we see so much war and so much inflation and so much epidemics in the world today. All these symptoms indicate that the time of an incarnation of the Lord to re-establish the principles of religion and to vanquish the maladministrators. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Right? So anytime such incidents happen, Lord would come. Right? Of course, in Kali Yuga, we see that all the time. And for Kali Yuga, incarnation has already come and established the way out of this, which is to perform Sankirtana. Right? So in Kali Yuga, by performance of Sankirtana, one will not be influenced by the pains of material existence in the Kali Yuga. So by chanting every single day, right, continuously, is like inoculating ourselves with a vaccine to be not influenced by the lower modes of material nature. Right? So those who chant the holy name, perform Sankirtan, right, study of the literature given like Bhagavatam, given by the Lord, those people will be freed from the influence of the lower modes. Aho alam shlagyatamam yadhokulam
Aho alam
alam
slāgyatamam yadhokulam.
yadukulam
aho alam punyatamam madhorvanam
Aho
aho
alam punyatam madhorvanam.
adhormanam
Yadesha pumsam rishabhasriyapati
Yadesha
yadesha
pumsam
pumsam rishabha shriyapatihi
swajanmana chankramanena chanchate.
Svajanmana chankramayena
chankramanena
chati.
chanchati.
Please read.
Oh, how supremely glorified is the dynasty of King Yadu, and how virtuous is the land of Mathura, where the supreme leader of all living beings, the husband of the goddess of fortune, has taken his birth and wandered in his childhood.
So they are glorifying the land where Lord was born. How virtuous is the land of Mathura, where the supreme leader of all living beings, the husband of goddess of fortune, has taken his birth and wandered in his childhood. Especially Vrindavana, where Lord was born in Mathura, but was raised in Vrindavan, where he, walked, performed so many wonderful sweet pastimes with gopis and gopas, and with mother, with his family. So how glorious it is! It's the most glorious because the Supreme Lord, the source of all living entities, is performed. So Madhura is considered the highest. Madhura, Vrindavan, they're considered the highest places in the entire universe. It's better than Brahmaloka, it's better than Swargaloka and every other higher planets within the universe. Yeah. Please continue, Prabhu.
Yeah. In the Bhagavad Gita, the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, has expressively given a description of his transcendental appearance, disappearance, and activities. The Lord appears in a particular family or place by his inconceivable potency. He does not take his birth as a conditioned soul, quits his body, and accepts another body. His birth is like the appearance and disappearance of the sun. The sun arises on the eastern horizon, but that does not mean that eastern horizon is the parent of the sun. The sun is existent in every part of the solar system, and he becomes visible at a scheduled time, and so also becomes invisible at another scheduled time.
So when sun comes every day, and then in the evening when sun sets, we don't say sun has passed away or died, right? So when sun sets in one place, it simultaneously arises in some other place. Meaning, so similarly, Lord's appearance are also like that. It's a transcendental appearance and disappearance. And when Lord leaves this Earth planet, he's going to another place where he's going to continue his performing pastimes. Right? So it's a continuous thing all the time. Right? He comes once in a day of Rama to our particular Earth planet. So in this way, he continuously performs pastimes. So sometimes people think that Lord Krishna was only very recent. He was not existing when originally Brahma created the universe. Many people have such understanding. Lord Krishna is only an incarnation. It's not like that actually. If you look at Brahma Samhita, the prayers by Lord Brahma, which is even before the actual creation of the universe, even there, Lord Brahma offers his prayers to Govinda, Krishna, right? And then he specifically points to the location where Govinda resides, Golok Vrindavan. Right? So in that way, we can understand Lord Krishna. Okay, the current appearance is a recent one, but that doesn't mean that Lord is not known to the world before the 5,000 years back. Lord was there eternally and he kept on coming again and again. So that's why you see the prayers of Brahma Samhita like that. So it's like sun's appearance and disappearance. Every day sun comes and sun disappears and appears in some other place. Aho batasva yashasti tirakshari.
Aho
Aho
Bhatasva
Batasva Yasasatirakari
Kushastali punya yashashkari bhuva.
Shasthali Punya Yashaskari Bhuva
Pashanti nityam yadanugraheshitam.
Shanti Nittam Yadanugrahaye Sthitam
Smitavalokam swapatim sma yat praja.
Tavalokam Swapatim Smayata Praja. Undoubtedly, it is wonderful that Dvārakā has defeated the glories of the heavenly planets and has enhanced the celebrity of the earth. The inhabitants of Dvārakā was always seeing the soul of all living beings, Kṛṣṇa, in his loving feature. He glances at them and favors them with sweet smiles.
Yeah, so we discussed this. So Dvārakā was higher than heavenly planets because Lord performed direct leelas with the living entities in Dvārakā. Yeah, please continue.
Any person engaged in devotional service of the Lord is recommended to live in one of the above mentioned three places, namely Dvārakā, Mathura, or Vrindavan. Because devotional service in these three places is magnified, those who go there to follow the principles in terms of instructions imparted in the revealed scriptures surely achieve the same result as obtained during the presence of Lord Sri Krishna. His abode and he himself are identical, And a pure devotee under the guidance of another experienced devotee can obtain all the results even at present.
So Prabhupada recommends us all to live in Dvārakā, Mathura and Vrindavana. It doesn't mean that we suddenly leave our responsibilities and go and stay there. But we should visit it often, and if possible in the future, when you are about to, your responsibilities are complete, now you can definitely go reside in one of these places. But always, the most important thing is it should be done only under the guidance of a spiritual teacher or spiritual master. We should not do it whimsically according to our own will and wish, right? Otherwise, we might be distracted. Even if we stay in dhams, if we don't have good guidance, we may be distracted. So we should, the purpose of a devotee visiting is not just his emancipation. It's mainly for service. If there is service requirement, we should go there. Otherwise, a devotee, wherever he lives, that is the place, that is itself is Vrindavan. If we can live according to the proper state of mind, one can be in the spirit of Vrindavan, everywhere, anywhere. You can be in Seattle and still be in the same spirit as a devotee living in Vrindavan. So I heard of one devotee, he lives in the United States, he's a little old, like maybe in 60s. Every day, in his mind, he does a parikrama of entire Vrindavan, every single day. Even today, he does that every day. So he had such absorption and into the pastimes and love for the Lord that while sitting in America, he can just meditate on the pastimes of Lord and walk around the entire Vrindavan, and completely meditate and walk, do a parikrama of the entire Vrindavan. So that is possible when we are completely immersed in the leelas of the Lord. That is possible, and that is as good as living in Vrindavan. Right? It's no different. So that requires us to completely hear, understand, absorb, and also experience. Nunam vratasnana hutadineshvara
Nunam vratasnana hutadineshvara
samachito hi asya grihita panibhi
Samarachito he asya grahita panibhi
Vivanti ya sakhi adaratmaram muhu
Vantiya sakhi
Ramratam
muhu
Vrajastriya sammuhur yadashraya
Rajastriya sammuhur yadashrayah.
Is it?
Oh, friends.
Go ahead, Mrs.
Oh, friends, just think of his wives, whose hands he has accepted. How they must have undergone woes, baths, fire sacrifices, and perfect worship of the Lord of the universe to constantly relish now the nectar from his lips by kissing. The damsels of Vrajabhumi would often faint just by expecting such favors.
So these queens of Hastinapur are glorifying the good fortune of the queens of Dvārakā who achieved the hand of Lord in marriage, right? Like Rukmini, Satyabhama. They were wedded wives of Lord. So that is Swaki, a direct loving relationship or in marriage relationship. And he also had many devotees in Vrindavan who are his gopis, who are his lovers. It's in Vrajabhumi. They were primarily love in separation. They experienced love in separation. That's why. So both are actually transcendental. These are not like mundane like a man-woman relationships. These are all on transcendental platform. That's why the great, the things mentioned here, how fortunate that they must have undergone vows, baths, fire sacrifices, perfect worship of the Lord. Perfect worship. That is how one can get to such a state of the universe, to constantly relish now the nectar from the lips, right? Madhurya rasa. So direct relationship with the Lord. Right? So the damsels, so they must be so fortunate. That's what these queens of Hastinapur are speaking here. Prabhupada elaborates on Madhurya rasa here. Please read.
In that perfect stage of Svarupa, the living being is established in 5 phases of loving service, one of which is the stage of Madhurya Rasa, or the humor of conjugal love. The Lord is always perfect in himself, and thus he has no hankering for himself. He, however, becomes a master, a friend, a son, or a husband to fulfill the intense love of the devotee concerned. Herein, 2 classes of devotees of the Lord are mentioned in the stage of conjugal love. One is Swakiya and the other is Parakiya. Both of them are in conjugal love with the personality of Godhead Kṛṣṇa. The queens at Dvārakā were Swakiya or duly married wives, but the damsels of Raja were young friends of the Lord while he was unmarried. The Lord stayed at Vrindavana till the age of 16, and his friendly relations with the neighboring girls were in terms of Parakiya. These girls, as well as the queens, underwent severe penances by taking vows, bathing, and offering sacrifices in the fire as prescribed in the scriptures.
To achieve Lord's hand, they must have completed all these things in their previous lives. Please read.
The kissing of the Lord, either by his wives or his young girlfriends who aspire to have the Lord as their fiancé, is not of any mundane, perverted quality. Had such things been mundane, a liberated soul like Shukadeva would not have taken the trouble to relish them, nor would Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu have been inclined to participate in those subjects after renouncing worldly life. The stage is earned after many lives of penance.
So this is to not misunderstand the pastimes of the Lord. Lord's pastimes are all transcendental, but sometimes mundane people wouldn't understand. They question such pastimes. Actually, these are all on the transcendental platform. Otherwise, great devotees like Sukadeva Goswami, why would they even speak about this? Those who have completely renounced the world, sannyasis like Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, why would they even talk about it? So actually, by hearing these pastimes, the sweet loving pastimes of the Lord in the Madhurya Rasa, right? One's lust for material attachment will go away. Which is the toughest knot for the conditioned soul. So that is the reason that is the reason for giving these descriptions for us, so that we actually get rid of our mundane attachment and to lust. Yaviryasulkena hrita swayamvare
या
या
वीर्यसुल्केन
वीर्यसुल्केन
हृतः
हृता
स्वयंवरे
स्वयंवरे
Pramatya chaidya pramukhan hi susmina
प्रमथ्य चैद्या प्रमुखान् हि सुष्मिता
Pradyumna sambamba sutadayo para
प्रद्युम्न सम्भावसुतादयो परा
Yascha hrita bhaumaya vadhe sahasrasa.
याश्च भौमावये सहस्रशः.
Yeah, please read.
The children of these ladies are Pradyumna, Samba, Amba, etc., ladies like Rukmani, Satyabhama, and Jambavati were forcibly taken away by him from their Swayamvara ceremonies after he defeated many powerful kings headed by Shishupala. And other ladies were also forcibly taken away by him after he killed Bhaumasura and thousands of his assistants. All of these ladies are glorious.
So this is description of the family of Lord. He has the wedded wives. All these are wedded wives. Rukmini, Satyabhama, Jambavati, children, Padmini, Samba, Amba, right? And then he also married thousands of queens of various countries who were all captured by Bhaumasura in his palace, 16,000 queens. And generally in those days, once somebody was kept in captive, especially women, they were not, looked upon down because they cannot be married. But Lord relieves all of them by actually marrying them. That is the greatness of the Lord. Okay? Yeah, you can read here more.
There were 16,100 beautiful girls who were daughters of many kings and were forcibly stolen by Bhaumasura, who kept them captive for his carnal desire. These girls prayed piteously to Lord Krishna for their deliverance, and the merciful Lord, called by their fervent prayer, released them all by fighting and killing Bhaumasura. All these captive princesses were then accepted by the Lord as his wives, although in the estimation of the society they were all fallen girls. The all-powerful Lord Krishna accepted the humble prayers of these girls and married them with the adoration of queens. So altogether Lord Krishna had 16,108 queens at Dvārakā, and in each of them he begot 10 children.
Lord was so kind, he heard the prayers of these queens, these girls captured by Bhaumasura. More or less like, rejects in the world. Even though they were all queens, nobody would have married other than Lord himself. So Lord is, doesn't look up his reputation. In fact, when Lord does any pastime, he is glorified. Even by marrying all these fallen girls, he was glorified. And he renewed their stature as queens, and they all were, taken care by Lord. In Dvārakā. Etah param stritvam apatapeshalam
param
स्त्रीत्वम्
apatapeshalam
nirashta saucham bata sadhu kurvate.
nirashta saucham patasadu kurvate
Yasham grihat pushkaralochana patir.
yasham grihat pushkaralochanapatir
Najat papaiti ahritabir hridisparsh sprisham.
Rajatvapaiti ahritidir hridisparshan.
All these women auspiciously glorified their lives despite their being without individuality and without purity. Their husband, the lotus-eyed personality of Godhead, never left them alone at home. He always pleased their hearts by making valuable presentations.
So Lord was, setting a good example how to be a good grihastha. He was taking care of his wives and children in a very pleasing way. He was even arranging gifts regularly. Every queen would think that Lord is always with them. That is how in those 16,108 wives in Dvārakā, Lord was simultaneously present with every single queen and performed pastimes as if he's a handpicked husband of that particular queen. Okay? So that is possible only for the Lord. Right? Nobody. So Narada Muni once visits Lord. He wanted to see how he's able to manage so many wives. And in every home he visits, every one of these queens had one of their homes. There are 16,108 palaces. So Narada Muni would visit multiple queens, and in each home he would, Lord would receive him as if he is, visiting for the first time, and serve him, in a nice way, talk to him in a very different way, based on the context of the wife and family right there. So Narada was so surprised by Lord's, ability to, perform such a wonderful pastime. Evam vidha gadam evam vidha gadantina
Evam vitha gadantinam
sagira pura yosh. No, I'm going wrong.
sagira
Pura
purayoshitam
Yoshitam
Nirekshanena nena binandam
nirikshena abhinandanam
sasmitena yayo hari.
Smitena yayau harihi.
What is the right meter? Anybody? Twice? Only try. Evam vidha gadantina.
Vandira gadantinam sagiraha pura yashoti yashitam. No Prabhu. Trying but
Wait. So, yeah. Okay. Please read.
While the ladies of the capital Hastinapur were greeting him and talking in this way, the Lord, smiling, accepted their good greetings and casting the grace of his glance over them, he departed from the city.
So Lord always does this, amidst any tense situation or anything, he would just do a quick smile because he knows the in and out of the situation, right? While the ladies of the capital were greeting him, right? So they were all talking, and it means Lord acknowledging that I accepted your prayers. Right? They were all offering their heartfelt prayers to the Lord as the creator, source, and giver of pleasure to his devotees. So Lord smilingly accepted their good greetings and casting the grace of his glance over them, he departed from the city. You can imagine how Lord would have glanced. It's a beautiful sight. Ajata Satru Pitanam
Ajatasatru Kritanam
Gopitaya Madhudvisha
Gopiyaya Madhuvisha
Rebhya Sankita Snehat
Paribhya Sankitaha Snehat
Prayunta Chaturanginam.
Prayunta Chaturanginam
Nim.
Please read.
Maharaj Yudhishthir, although no one's enemy, engaged 4 divisions of defense, horse, elephant, chariot, and army, to accompany Lord Krishna, the enemy of the Asuras, demons. The Maharaj did this because of the enemy and also out of the affection for the Lord.
So Maharaj Yudhishthira, he knows who is Lord, by the way. It's not new for him, right? He only protected all of them so many times. He showed universal form. It seems quite illogical, Like, why would Maharaj Yudhishthira provide protection to Lord Lord can protect himself, right? But it is a way of showing affection for Maharaj Yudhishthira. If somebody loves his children, like however great the children may be in terms of managing their own life, still the parent is always worried about the children. So similarly, between loved ones, there is always such loving exchange. And in the next verse we'll see even Krishna surprisingly accepts this offer. He may, hey, it could be like if it is a regular human being, it could be like a false ego thing, right? Like, what are you saying? I am the source of entire existence. But Lord doesn't take anything in false ego. He is not like a mundane human being. He sees the heart of the person. Ultimately it is a loving exchange. Right? So similarly, for example, we offer bhoga to the Lord. Does Lord really need bhoga or bhoga?
No, he doesn't need it. But
By
we
offering
accept
the service,
because of our
we get
love.
the benefit. We get purified by right? It's for our benefit we do any service to the Lord. It's not the Lord's need. Right? Sound of affection. This is the main reason. Affection for the Lord. So devotee had such a relation with the Lord that he is worried about the protection of the Lord. Even though Lord is self-sufficient, still the devotee feels out of his affection, he feels like that. Yeah. Please read.
Maharaj Yudhishthir knew well that Krishna is everyone's friend and well-wisher, and yet there were asuras who were by nature envious of the Lord. So out of fear of attack from others and out of affection also, he engaged all varieties of defensive forces as bodyguards of Lord Krishna. If required, Lord Krishna himself was sufficient to defend himself from the attack of others who counted the Lord as their enemy. But still, he accepted all the arrangements made by Maharaj Yudhishthir because he could not disobey the king, who was his elder cousin. The Lord plays the part of subordinate in his transcendental courting, and thus sometimes he puts himself in the care of Yashoda Mata for his protection in his so-called helplessness of childhood.
When Lord especially is in the material world, he likes to be subordinate to his devotees, like Yashoda Mai, Nanda Maharaj. Even the way he always dealt with Yudhishthira Maharaj, he always prays to his, he touches his feet. Lord touches Yudhishthira Maharaj's feet before, taking permission to leave the Hastinapur. So that is Lord's magnanimity. Even though he's the supreme source of everything, still he loves to do such, he wants to have such relation exchanges with his devotees. That is the transcendental nature of the Lord. Atha duragatan sauri.
Atha duragatan saurihi
Shauri.
Kauravan virahaturam.
Kauravan
Sannivacha dhridam snigdhan.
Sannivartya dridham snigdhan
Prayat swanagarim priyaye.
Prayat
Nagarim
priyahai.
Please read.
Out of profound affection for Lord Krishna, the Pandavas, who were of the Kuru dynasty, accompanied him a considerable distance to see him off. They were overwhelmed with the thought of future separation. The Lord, however, persuaded them to return home, and he proceeded towards Dvārakā with his dear companions.
So this is how devotees feel towards the Lord. Lord was leaving. Generally, you go to the gate, your home's gate, to send off your relative who is the loved one for you. Yeah? But Pandavas, they were going along with Lord. They're not stopping at all. So because they feel it intolerable to separate from the Lord. They want to see him off as much as possible. Lord was, politely telling them, okay, you can stay here, don't need to come further. But, their affection is so deep that they want to see as much as possible. And they were all overwhelmed emotionally that Lord is leaving. We can see similar pastimes in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. When Lord Chaitanya, during his South India tour, he visited various places. And in each place, he stays only a few days, like a week or two. And he toured for, multiple years, like 2-3 years, he toured around South India. And everywhere he goes, he performs Sankirtan. And everywhere he goes, there will be devotees who become strongly attached. And they want to just join Lord, give up their family, children, everything. They want to go with the Lord, and completely dedicate their life. But Lord would stop them and tell them, Sthane sthiti gata tanman gatovi. So perform devotion service in your current position. Don't give up your current position. So through your sincere devotion service, you will achieve this Lord Krishna. That's how he would teach and he would proceed. So Lord is always so attractive to the conditioned soul. So in the same thing here, Lord Krishna is like a magnet. Nobody wants to feel separation from him, or he is the bundle of joy for the eyes for Hastinapur. So far, now he is leaving, so they're not willing to let him go. Right? So they are continuously pursuing, going behind him, trying to see have the last glance. Lord Prasad, don't want to affect them negatively, so he's just silently, you can stay back, but the devotees still want to walk with him as much as possible. So this is a loving relation between the devotees and the Lord. Kuru Jangala Panchalam, Panchalam,
Kuru Jangala Panchalam,
Enam Sayamunam,
Surasenanan
Brahmavartam Kurukshetram,
Brahmavartam
Kurukshetram,
Kurukshetram,
Matsyam Sarasvatanata,
Matsyam Sarasvatanata,
Marudhanvam Atikramya,
Marudhanvam
Vikramya,
Atikramya,
Rayoparam,
Sauvirayoparam,
Anartam Bhargavo Pagaj,
Anartan Bhagavo
Bhargavo Pagaj
Shantavaho Vaho Manadvibo,
Vibhu.
Ravi Radhyamas Kumari.
Yeah, Prabhuji. O Shaunaka, the Lord then proceeded towards Kurujangala, Panchala, Surasena, the land on the bank of the river Yamuna, Brahmavarta, Kurukshetra, Matsya, Saraswata, the province of the desert and the land of scanty water. After crossing these provinces, he gradually reached the Sauvira and Abhira provinces. Then west of these reached Dvārakā at last.
So Lord proceeded through various locations on the way. So he actually resides for some time in different places and then finally reaches Dvārakā. That's Tatra 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 Ityair,
Tatra
Hari Prachujatarhana.
Hare
Prayatahana
Eje Disham Paschad.
Sayam Vede Disham
Pascha
Istogam Gatastada.
Gavistogam
Gatastada.
So these are all, real past tense. A lot of people, consider Lord Krishna, is a created story. But why would there be so many details, like, how he traveled, what exactly he reached at different times? So this shows that, these are past tense that have clearly happened. Please read. Whoever hasn't read so far. Anandram Prabhu or Sujata.
Yes, Prabhuji, I can. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Sir Prabhupada. On his journey through these provinces, he was welcomed, worshipped, and given various presentations. In the evening, in all places, the Lord suspended his journey to perform evening rites. This was regularly observed after sunset.
So he was traveling various places, and he was worshipped and given various presentations wherever he goes. Naturally, Lord is very visible and attractive wherever he is. And he would suspend his journey to perform evening rites. So this is to set a good example. Lord doesn't need to perform it, but he still performs it so that people in general would follow such spiritual rites for their own elevation. Every sunset he would do that.
Okay.
Please
Since the Lord is absolute, every day, everything done by him is good for everyone. But when he descends to earth, he acts for the protection of the devotees and for the annihilation of the impious non-devotees. Although he has no obligatory duty, still he does everything so that others may follow. This is the way of factual teaching. One must act properly himself and teach the same to others. Otherwise, no one will accept one's blind teaching. He himself, the awarder of fruitive results. He is self-sufficient, and yet he acts according to the rulings of the revealed scriptures in order to teach us the process.
So one should not imitate Lord, one should follow. So Lord performed various pastimes. For example, his pastimes with gopis, or sometimes he lifted Govardhana hill, various pastimes. And some of them can be practiced by us, some of them cannot be practiced by us. So how do we know what to follow, what not to follow? That is instructed by a spiritual master. Right? So all these are performed by the Lord. Which of those things that are to be performed by us, that we can know by consulting the spiritual teachers. Right? So they will let us know how to what to perform, right, for our own good. So for example, this one is for common people in this world. Right? So we cannot imitate Lord in, we cannot lift Govardhana hill, for example. We cannot marry so many gopis like Kṛṣṇa. So those are not for us. Those are transcendental pastimes of the Lord. We understand through them the greatness of the Lord. And pastimes like this, we need to follow it, because even Lord himself followed when he was in this world. So we need to practice whatever spiritual practices we were asked to, like chanting the holy names every day. Right? Those are the principles given to us in the scriptures as well as the spiritual authorities. Right? We will follow those. I think this. So, can you read this line also?
Yes, Prabhu.
Same thing. Go ahead.
The Lord in human society does what is the duty of everyone. But sometimes he does something extraordinary and not to be imitated by the living beings. His acts of evening prayer, as stated here. Sorry, bro. His acts of evening prayer, as stated herein, must be followed by the living being, but it is not possible to follow his mountain lifting or dancing with the gopis. One cannot imitate the sun, which can exhaust water even from a filthy place. The most powerful can do something which is all good, but our limitation of such acts will put us into endless difficulty. Therefore, in all actions, the experienced guide, the spiritual master, who is the manifested mercy of the Lord, should always be consulted, and the path of progress will be assured.
That we'll end this chapter. 10th chapter is done. The next